Did Tucker Carlson lie about knowing his father was in the CIA? We're going to get to the heart of this controversy here in this video. During an interview on his show with Candace Owens, he talks about only finding out that his father was involved in the CIA or was a CIA member after his death.
And he's attacking my dad as a CIA, his dad's in the CIA or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's no, untrue. Then my father dies, and I learn, actually, yeah, was involved in that world. I was completely shocked by it. So no one has to believe me, but that's just a fact.
Well, we can pull up several clips of Tucker in the past talking about CIA ties that his father and his family had.
And so when I applied to CIA, and I've taken a lot of crap, including from Putin, like, oh, you're from a CIA family. Well, yeah, obviously my father worked in conjunction with CIA. I mean, that's what that is. And I tried to join the CIA.
He had a bunch of them. He ran the Voice of America for a long time, maybe 5 or 6 years. He was an ambassador in Africa, and then he ran something called the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
I mean, the guy who took out Mossadegh lived on my street. One of the Roosevelt CIA officer. So, I mean, again, I grew up around this stuff, but
that's why it's not happening.
But they seem to be doing so many other things. I mean, I applied to CIA. My dad worked with CIA. I was never against CIA. I thought only like dumb liberals were against CIA, and traitors or whatever. So my views on CIA have evolved based on things that I have seen and personally experienced.
You took a pretty well publicized trip with your father. Was it about 1.5 years ago? How long has it been?
Since we were in Pakistan.
Down to Nicaragua for the summer and work and, get involved in the war, and support the side that we thought was right.
Where you got left behind for a couple of days.
Oh, no, that was when I went to Vietnam with John McCain. Yeah, I had a hassle at the airport.
And are you still traveling with your father on trips?
We spent the summer in Nicaragua trying to get a sense of the war there, and all kinds of hilarity ensued. But yourself, my father's a great guy to travel with, and very amusing. And adventurous person who's up for anything. So I said, let's go to Pakistan. Okay.
Tucker also tried to join the CIA, which he admitted to. I believe 2017, there was a interview from a magazine where Tucker says, yes, I tried to join the CIA. Vladimir Putin also brings it up when Tucker went to Russia and interviewed Vladimir Putin.
With the backing of CIA, of course. The organization you wanted to join back in the day, as I understand.
Putin says you tried to join the CIA, which shocked Tucker, although it shouldn't have shocked him. I mean, this is going to be public knowledge. Putin also runs one of the premier intelligence agencies in the world. So, I mean, Putin can find things out. It shouldn't have surprised Tucker that Putin knew that. But we can find all these clips of Tucker talking about his family's CIA involvement. And yet he says he didn't know until after his father died. Well, Alex Jones, I saw a clip of Alex Jones on X bringing this up, which I'll link to that below. Alex Jones says that's the way it works. And first of all, I trust Alex Jones. Alex has some family that was in the CIA, but I don't believe Alex to be a government paid actor or whatever. Alex has been through the ringer. He's been sued. They took away his website, InfoWars. They're threatening to take away his X account, his Twitter account over this. He's asking for donations from the public. He's selling merchandise to try to raise money to help his legal battles. That's not something that happens to someone who is working for the government. So I trust Alex on this. And again, say what you want about Alex, but Alex seeks the truth. And Alex has been right on a lot of things, by the way. People call Alex crazy, but he was right about Bohemian Grove, right?
All these rich people, they go out in the woods and they burn this giant statue of an owl, and it's all a cult, and it's all Satan worship.
And everyone was like, yeah, right, Alex. And then he goes out into the woods and fucking films them doing it. And it was like, oh, okay.
You burn me once again!
He talked about Epstein. Alex Jones talked about Epstein. I don't believe he name dropped him, but Alex said,
there's an island out in the Caribbean. There's an island. They go down there and they're all fucking kids.
And everyone was like, yeah, right, Alex. And then boom, there it is, comes out.
Like, this is a guy that was telling me about Epstein's island fucking decade ago, at least. He was telling me about it. I was like, what? You're telling me there's a place where they bring elites to compromise them with underage girls and they filmed them. Really? Like, what? Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, no, President Clinton's been there. Everyone's been there. Like, what? It sounds like nonsense. And not only is it true, but people keep getting fucking murdered.
So say what you want about Alex again, but he's on it, okay? And Alex brings up his personal relationship that he has with Tucker and things that Tucker has told him personally. Now, I will say it would go a long way to have Tucker come out and say these same things that Alex brought up. But in lieu of that, we'll just go with what Alex says is whenever your family members die that have been in the CIA, that's when you find out their true involvement. That's when military officers come to the funeral, or there's medals, there's accolades that these people have earned that they pass on to the next of kin, and that's when you really find out. And Alex says this through personal experience of this is what's happened with my family through people who, you know, are related to me that were involved in things like Iran-Contra. He also, Alex, goes on to say that him and Tucker had, you know, they're friends. They had several lunches together where Tucker says, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that my dad was so involved in the CIA until after his death."
And I know that when your family is in any, you know, type of secret operation, it's not just the CIA. I've had family that was in DARPA. I've had family that was in Army Special Operations at high level. And I have had family that was in the CIA, you name it. And you don't find out until they're dead. And they don't even really find out anything then. Just that, wow, they did all this, did all these operations. And you find out at the funeral. And Tucker told me the specifics of his dad. And, you know, he got the national security letters and the commendations and the letters from high-level, you know, people in the government and very famous people saying, no, your dad was one of the main quarterbacks of defeating the Soviet Union and everything else, and was really, you know, at the center of the committees that did all this, but they were pro-American. Nick Fuentes is not a Fed, and Tucker Carlson did just learn, days after his dad died, all the letters and the calls and the things come in, that now you can know that your dad was a spy master. Now you can know your dad ran major global operations. Now you can know your dad was basically the unofficial director of the CIA for 30 years.
And I tend to believe him because if you go back, Tucker never says my dad worked for the CIA. What he says is my dad worked with the CIA, which is an important distinction. The CIA is a very big organization and all kinds of government agencies work with it. In conjunction with it. So that's what Tucker assumed his father's involvement in the CIA was. You know, his father worked at the State Department and, you know, he had CIA friends. Also, the kind of work that his dad would have been doing with the CIA would have been anti-communist work. It would have been trying to overthrow communist regimes, trying to contain Russia's influence around the world. My point with this would be he wasn't in the department that was running Project Mockingbird, MK Ultra, you know, presidential assassinations, you know, Kennedy, presidential impeachments, Nixon. He wasn't involved in the kind of, you know, which you would, I guess a lot of people would refer to as domestic terrorism that the CIA engages in, and they've really been critiqued on. His father was involved in, you know, overthrowing these godless commies, these evil commies, was going into these places and you know, liberating them from the communists. This is the image the CIA wanted people to have of them. This is the image of, you know, the James Bond types, right? You know, the CIA was probably involved in the James Bond movies because they paint spies and intelligence agencies in a positive light. I mean, for the longest time in the American psyche, that's what you would think about when you would think about someone working for the CIA. You would think about James Bond, you know, sneaking in places with these cool little gadgets, and, you know, there's some evil Russian villain, you know, with a goddamn cat on his lap, you know, well, hello, Mr. Bond. You know, and that's what people's idea of the CIA was. That's what Tucker thought of the CIA. That's probably what his dad thought of the CIA. And, you know, it's not like just because you're high level in an organization like that doesn't mean they sit you down and say, all right, you're involved in overthrowing communist regimes in Southeast Asia. Here, let's tell you about what we did with Kennedy over here. Let's tell you about MK Ultra. Let's tell you about all these nefarious programs we have going on. It doesn't work like that. This kind of stuff is on a need to know basis, as in nobody needs to know. You know, the old saying is loose lips sink ships. So, you know, same way, even if you have security clearance, even if you have security clearance to view classified material, secret material, top secret material, you don't necessarily get to view all of it. You only get to view the secret material that pertains to what you are doing. So even though Tucker's dad could have been potentially high up in the CIA, he might not have been aware of everything that they were doing around the country, because that's just not how it works. They don't, you know, when you go join the CIA, if you're going to be an analyst, they don't sit you down and give you a briefing of, okay, here's all the clandestine activities we've done over the past 80 years. It's just, that's not how they roll. You know what you are doing in your one department. It's compartmentalized. And I mean, why wouldn't it be that way? Why would they tell you everything? Why would they just have all these CIA operatives walking around knowing everything that the agency knows? I mean, it's ridiculous. So I do believe that when Tucker's dad was in, he was doing the James Bond kind of stuff. He was overthrowing the communists, furthering the U.S. interests, which was a very, you know, America first kind of attitude. And a lot of people back then, you know, were supportive of those ideas, getting rid of communism, bringing democracy to the world, bringing freedom. You know, now Tucker spoke out against the CIA. He says he hates the CIA. He says he hates what they do. I believe back then they weren't doing as many nefarious things as they are today. They certainly were, you know, Operation Northwoods, the Kennedy assassination, MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird. They certainly were doing nefarious things, but they weren't necessarily in the public lexicon like they are today. I mean, you didn't have the internet back then, and the only people that were really talking about this were like the kooks, the crackpots, you know, the quintessential tinfoil hat, right? Those were the people that were speaking out against the CIA. So I don't fault Tucker for not digging deeper, because the people that were digging deeper were probably crazy back then. And I would really like to see Tucker come out and give a full explanation of this, just like Alex did for him. Alex came out and gave a full explanation of that for us all. So I would really like to see Tucker come out and do the same thing. But if Tucker were to just go out there during an interview with Nick Fuentes, lay it all out, have Nick on the show, you know, if Nick were to just tone down his rhetoric a little bit and not attack Tucker, and they really just had a good conversation, I think, in the words of Ian Carroll, it would break the internet. And I happen to agree. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe.